Dear viewers, sorry for today's late episode, got busy in real-life situation. All good now. Please enjoy the show if not already. Chapter 1988 Death Sword. Li Changgong felt the momentum of Zhang Yi and Pekong in the distance, and his eyes became profound. Now, after coming into contact with the Deep Blue Kingdom, his strength has been greatly improved. But the gap between him and Zhang Yi is still so huge. I can't let anyone look down on me. Li Changgong is also a user of space abilities. He used to be on par with Zhang Yi in strength. His talent is not weak, and his ability of I and the will of heaven is even more incredible. All he needs is a chance. Li Changgong rushed into the battlefield. He, Xuanwu, and Suzaku could only deal with an Atlantis sea beast together. And their opponent is the giant electric eel. It was still the usual routine with Xuanwu, who had the strongest defense, bearing the frontal attack, and he and Zhuke coming in to support. The electric eel is very powerful, probably around 30,000 points. The deep-sea monster is already very powerful due to its strong physique, not to mention its innate discharge property, which allows it to defeat most opponents in the sea. Facing the three people in front of it, its upper body emerged from the sea, and the blue-pointed horns on its head condensed into terrifying lightning, which smashed down towards them. This attack was previously blocked by the gray-blue octopus, General Yu from the Deep Blue Kingdom. Now, the three giants each have their own opponents, and can only rely on the three Xuanwus to deal with them on their own. Even though he had strong defense, Xuanwu also felt a bit of a headache. It is not afraid of physical defense, but this intensity of electric current is enough to hurt it. What's more, he has a complete set of military equipment and a large number of naval personnel in his body. Let me do it. Li Changgong stood up at this time. He stood on Xuanwu's head and stared directly at the large-scale lightning that was approaching at a rapid speed amid the strong wind and huge waves. He grasped the hilt of the long sword with his right hand, his expression becoming more solemn than ever before. I am God's will. I can destroy everything. I once thought this was the most powerful power in the world. It was not until later, when I witnessed the power of the Deep Blue King, that I realized that I had been on the wrong path all along. If the sword is not fast enough and the strike fails to hit the enemy, everything will be meaningless. What I should really cut is not just the enemy's body. I should split the space and split everything I see, including the enemy's energy. It's not about cutting it open, but standing like a huge rock in the river, letting the space flow for me. The terrifying lightning is approaching, and the flashing lightning snake possesses terrifying energy that can burn everything. In Li Changgong's palm, there was also arc light flashing on the long sword. But his body didn't waver at all. As the lightning approached, his hair began to rise into the sky. The setting sun is like blood, and the north wind is as sharp as a knife. A strong sense of death spread through Li Changgong. He was determined to survive in the face of death. He forgot his noble birth, and also forgot about retreat and cowardice. He finally acted like a fearless warrior, drawing his sword and showing his saber when facing the enemy. Clang! The long sword was pulled out of the scabbard without any thrilling movement or any arc of supernatural power. Some are merely responses to the rules of space. It's not about splitting it, but about diverting the space in front of him. This knife turned into a stubborn stone in the torrent, blocking the invasion of the torrential lightning. Chapter 1988 Death Sword, 2 halves. And wherever the blade passed, the torrent of thunder actually surged towards other places from both sides of the blade, as if avoiding the blade in his hand. The electric eel's attack fell into the weak water, splashing up huge waves. But it did not harm the longbow, Suzaku, or Xuanwu in the slightest. The electric eel was stunned for a moment. Its huge body stood in the ocean, and it stared at the tiny human for the first time. Changgong took a deep breath. He knew that he had finally completed his transformation. So he raised his knife and pointed it at the electric eel in front of him, with a fearless smile on his face. Let us do it again. Chaos, with an ability index of 35,000 points and a combat ability of 40,000+, is fighting fiercely with Pekong. Zhang Yi, like this, has already completed his transformation. Whether in attack or defense, he has almost no weaknesses. If you want to win the decisive battle, you must find the opponent's weaknesses. He holds several trump cards in his hand and will not use them easily. In a split second, I only need a chance to get close to him and crush his neck. But this guy kept a long enough distance from me and used his supernatural energy to form a shield to protect his entire body. This made me unsure if I could kill him with one blow. On the contrary, if it backfires, I might get hurt even more. Zhang Yi looked at the sky breaking in the distance. During the confrontation phase, both of them chose to first position themselves in an absolutely safe area and then release long-range attack skills through the air. However, after some attempts, the two found that this method of attack could not hurt each other. So, next they have to fight at a closer distance. No way. Zhang Yi had no such interest at all. The divine power changed again, the magic knife broke apart, and the materials quickly condensed into a huge sniper rifle. The length of the gun body is an astonishing 8 meters. It is more like a sniper cannon than a sniper rifle. Let me test your defense level. The nuclear bomb was deployed directly. Zhang Yi continued to retreat, and the sniper gun made a deafening roar. Nuclear energy exploded, and circles of energy halos enveloped the air. Pokong raised the corner of his mouth, and the armor on his left wrist unfolded, revealing a circle of silver halo. The halo burst into brilliant light, and then 3 spheres made of special substances were suspended above it and began to rotate slowly. Pokong pointed the bracelet towards Zhang Yi. Reincarnation Sky Cannon. The 3 light balls burst out with warm red energy, spinning, and the ejected energy gathered into a spiral beam of light, colliding with the nuclear bullet shot by Zhang Yi. The roar was deafening, and the area between the two of them had already been turned into a sunken, scorched earth. The methods of both parties are very similar, and they are on guard against each other, and no one wants to reveal their flaws first. Zhang Yi's plan was also very simple. As long as I am not at a disadvantage, there is no need to fight you to the death at close range. Anyway, my warehouse is well stocked with weapons and ammunition, and I have a large number of energy crystals to use. In this situation, you must be the first to get anxious. After you get anxious, you will reveal your flaws. As for the battlefield where Liang Yu and others were, the situation was not in an unfavorable state for them. Zhang Yi doesn't need to worry, he can just take his time. So Zhang Yi calmly loaded the ammunition and began to engage in a crazy battle with Pokong from a long distance. Chapter 1989. The Destroyed Country. It is true that the advanced technology of the Wulwan Empire is powerful, but what he is facing now is no longer the human alien who has passed away, but Zhang Yi who has mastered the mechanical technology of the Tsangyue tribe. After a round of artillery bombardment from both sides, the ultra-long distance was unable to cause decisive damage to the other side. But in this way, the gap in energy reserves is clearly revealed. Pokong was full of confidence at the beginning, thinking that his ability index was thousands of points higher than Zhang Yi's and that the advantage lay with him. But gradually, he discovered something was wrong. With his energy consumed, he did not gain any advantage. Instead, when Zhang Yi attacked, it was as if his ammunition and energy crystals were free, and he vented his energy on him wantonly. How much reserves does this guy have? Pokong thought of a very bad possibility, and in his mind, he recalled the battle behind the light gate. Zhang Yi is carrying a huge fortress on his body. But in fact, Pokong Yi was waiting for Zhang Yi to take out the fortress. Once the fortress is taken out, Zhang Yi's space for movement will be limited. Pokong had already prepared a powerful weapon for him, which was a terrifying weapon more destructive than the human love-death god. However, Zhang Yi refused to adopt the fortress tactics. It's not good for me to delay like this. A hint of gloom emerged in Pokong's heart, but more of it was a feeling of frustration. Obviously, he possesses great strength, but he has to be worn down by someone who is far less powerful than him. It's like a punch on a cotton ball. Who can be willing to accept this? The armor of the Tsangyue tribe. He was so angry that his teeth were itching, but there was also an element of jealousy. After I kill you, that armor will be mine. Pokong knew that they could not continue to maintain a stalemate in Xiaodong as they had no advantage at all in the other two battlefields. As the leader of the movement, he must break the situation and open up the situation. As long as we kill Zhang Yi on the opposite side, everything will be over. Pokong took a deep breath and finally made up his mind. He slashed the air with the lightsaber in his right hand, and a dark red crack appeared in front of him. Breaking through the air and stepping into the crack, he instantly closed the distance of several miles towards Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi's eyes narrowed. You finally can't help it. He knew that this time would come, so he had been waiting for it. When masters fight each other, mentality is very important. Once you lose the initiative, it is easy to fall into a disadvantage step by step. And what Zhang Yi wants is to gain the upper hand, taking the initiative in the situation and being superior in mentality. Just in time, Zhang Yi confirmed that Pokong had entered his shooting range, and he was not polite at all. Clock second hand, predict the area where the air-breaking knife will appear, hold the knife in your right hand, and aim your left hand at the void to grab it in advance. The moment he emerged from the crack in the void, he clenched his left hand hard. God's domain purification. The void seemed to collapse and squeeze towards the position where Pokong was. One could vaguely see that the light was distorted within a radius of 1 kilometer in this space. The extremely terrifying force came from all directions, without any blind spots, and the body that collapsed and broke through the air brought him indescribable pressure. The armor on Pokong's body made a creaking and twisting sound, but he had already prepared in advance and used the supernatural power of space energy to protect his whole body to resist the erosion of this pervasive force. Therefore, even after enduring Zhang Yi's attack, Pokong did not suffer much damage. He looked up at Zhang Yi and also raised his left hand. Enter the prison from which there is no escape, human boy. The moment he raised his hand, white cracks appeared in the void, connecting into an extremely huge net, which appeared around Zhang Yi and then closed up and down. It was like a huge birdcage trapping Zhang Yi inside. Eternal prison cage. The white cracks in the void formed a huge cage, and this method of sealing divided the space. Zhang Yi had seen this move before, and his space travel was unable to leave this damaged space. At that time, the way he escaped was to activate Moment of Sky. In a static space, everything is fragile, so he can pass through the cracks in the void. The current breaking through of the air was to force Zhang Yi to activate his ability of the blue sky instant. He knew very well that this unconventional ability must have huge limitations and could not be used indefinitely. Looking at the white space cracks around him, they completely surrounded Zhang Yi and were constantly shrinking their range. As a top-notch space expert, Zhang Yi can feel how powerful these white space cracks are. However, this was not the first time he had come into contact with this ability, so of course he was mentally prepared. Around Zhang Yi's body, 3,000 dimensional gates were stacked up one after another, forming an almost impenetrable barrier to protect him. But at this moment, Zhang Yi raised his hand, and the surrounding dimensional gates instantly expanded and rushed towards the outside. The easiest way to break the space-related ability is to use the same space-related ability to cause space annihilation. The myriad creatures in the universe expanded rapidly and collided directly with the rapidly shrinking eternal prison. The moment the invisible dimensional gate came into contact with the white space crack, a special energy fluctuation that no one could have imagined appeared. The void was twisting, and every time a dimensional crack came into contact with a dimensional gate, Zhang Yi and Pokong saw extremely bizarre scenes, as if they had left this world for a moment. Dimensions overlapped, collapsed, and twisted. As the three-dimensional world collapsed, I saw a higher dimension in a trance, and then fell to a low dimension in an instant. Soon after this strange scene appeared, the eternal prison cage was shattered, and a large number of Zhang Yi's dimensional gates were melted and destroyed. Zhang Yi escaped from the control of the eternal prison cage. Seeing this, Pokong curled his lips into a sinister sneer. How many times can your gate last? You can use the power of the mecha to fight me, but your energy is far weaker than mine. You will never be able to defeat me in this way. His arms spread out like a big bird, and then he grasped the white lightsaber with both hands. The next move is even more difficult to deal with. The sword slashed down, and thousands of white space cracks fell from the sky, like countless falling stars, leaving white scars in the air. One after another, tons and tons of hemp, it was like fireworks blooming and falling. Layer upon layer, seemingly chaotic and complicated, but in fact there are traces to be followed. Thousands of white space cracks are interwoven to form an even larger cage. There were cages outside the cages, and they overlapped to create dozens of white cages with space cracks. The Death Realm is peerless, destroying the country. Dear viewers, thanks for staying with me. We'll try to get you more updates. Please like and subscribe and share the video with your friends. Love you all.